Does Eurovision 2025 feel different because of the labels? Hello world, good evening Europe, and welcome to Eurovision Good to Know. We are T and K from Germany, and this is our first Eurovision analysis video. Within the fandom, many people express that 2025 feels different than other years. What the actual difference is hard to grasp. It's not only that we have many songs in local languages, many novelty acts. It seems the difference is something more general, like the general vibe of the year.
No, not vibe from Iceland.
So the general feeling. We think there is a behind-the-scenes reason for this, a reason you can't see on your scorecard or in the betting odds, the labels behind the songs. Each year, when we research the entries, we are also curious about which label produced the single. We both have experiences in music business from songwriting, licensing and publishing, so this side is always interesting to us too. And to our surprise, this year, the amounts of how many songs by which major label are competing are very different than in previous years. Let's first check out the songs of this year and their labels before we take a deeper look at the change in the proportions. The biggest major label, Universal Music Group, used to send around 30 to 40% of the entries each year.
This year, Universal is sending only 6 songs, and they are
Poison Cake from Croatia, Hallucination for Denmark, Maman from La France, La Poupée Monte le Sang from Luxembourg, Deslocado, competing for Portugal, and How Much Time Do We Have Left Together, representing Slovenia. Warner Music Group, with a music market share of around 15%, has 13 entries in Eurovision 25.
The Warner songs are
Wasted Love from Austria, Kiss Kiss Goodbye for Czechia, Espresso Macchiato from Estonia, Ich komme from Finland, Laika Party for Ireland, Volevo essere un duro from Italy, Serving for Malta, C'est la vie from the Netherlands, Leiter representing Norway, Gaia competing for Poland, Tutta l'Italia for San Marino, Barabadabastu competing for Sweden, and Voyage for Switzerland. The third major label is Sony Music.
The 3 songs from Sony are
Run With You from Azerbaijan, Balla competing for Germany, and Esa Diva representing Spain. There are also 7 songs from smaller labels that are independent from the majors.
The indie label songs are
The Milkshake Man from Australia, Strobe Lights for Belgium, Shh representing Cyprus, Asteromata from Greece, Roa competing for Iceland, Tavo Arkis from Lithuania, and Bird of Prey from the Ukraine. In 5 nations, the participating national broadcaster itself is the publishing label.
probably to make the whole endeavor more attractive for the broadcaster financially. This applies to
Survivor from Armenia, Freedom competing for Georgia, New Day Will Rise representing Israel, Dobrodošli from Montenegro, and Mila for Serbia. And last but not least, we have 3 actually self-published acts this year.
These are
The Albanian Zjerm, Burman Laimi for Latvia, and What the Hell Just Happened from the UK.
It's an interesting side fact that the 2 only female groups of the year are both self-published. Do labels big and small not want to work with groups of women? Or is this just a strange coincidence?
The special thing about this year is that the largest group of songs, 35% of all entries, are the 13 songs that were produced by the Warner Music Group.
To see how significant this is, let's have a look at the share of Eurovision entries for each label recently.
To be precise, we will look at how many Eurovision entries were from which label in the years 2019 to 2025. To keep it comparable, Although the numbers of participants change each year, we have calculated percentages instead of looking at the concrete numbers.
Here we go, some numbers for the Eurovision nerds.
Self-published songs make up below 15% in most years. This category starts in 2019 with only 2%.
One song of 41 participants.
It then jumps up to its largest quantity with 20% in 2020. In 2021, they are back down to 3%.
Also one song, but of only 39 participating entries.
2022, 13%, 23, 8%, 24, 14%, and in this year, 2025, down to 8% again.
So, self-published can be seen as being stable around 10% with the exception of their high number of 20% in 2020.
The national broadcaster, acting as the publisher, is a special case that somehow swings back and forth between 2019 and 25. It starts at 15% of the songs in 2019 and ends at 14% this year, while dropping to 0 songs in 2023, with low numbers of 5 to 7% in the other years.
This could be some kind of COVID effect maybe? However, the national broadcaster number is reliably somewhere below 15% of the songs of every Eurovision Song Contest.
Independent labels, on the other hand, are one of the largest groups each year. This group is also very diverse. Some labels are major players in their country or their region.
Like Panic Records in Cyprus and Greece or Croatia Records in Croatia.
Others are associated with a certain composer or nearly exclusively publish one artist, bordering on self-publishing. This diversity probably explains some of the large fluctuations in the numbers for this group. They start very high, at 39 and 42% in 2019 and 2020. Then they suddenly drop sharply to their lowest number of 13% in 2021.
This is probably a COVID effect too, where small labels were struggling during the lockdowns and did not have the resources to send an artist to Eurovision.
In 2022, the indie labels recovered to 25%, reaching 33 and 35% again in 2023 and 2024. Finally, this year, their share of Eurovision entries declined a bit again, down to 19%. The smallest so-called major label, BMG, Bertelsmann Music Group, seems to have left the Eurovision game. They did send 1 or 2 songs between 2020 and 23, but neither 2024 nor this year. So we're going to disregard them and continue with Sony. Their numbers are also quite low usually, between 2 and 8%, meaning between 1 and 3 songs. But there is one exception. In 2021, where Sony songs suddenly make up 23% of the Eurovision entries.
We are pretty sure this is another COVID effect, since parts of Asia were in lockdown longer than Europe, and therefore Eurovision looked like a good opportunity to make some money.
The Warner Music Group starts with low numbers of 5 and 7% in 2019 and 2020. Then they rise a bit to 13, 15 and 16% between 2021 and 23. Last year, in 2024, they fell back down to 8%, only to then produce the highest rise in the data, suddenly jumping up to a record high with 35% of the entries of this year. Universal Music starts off in 2019 with 34% of all the Eurovision songs, going down to 20% in 2020. Then, after 21 with 38%, Universal sits at stable 33% for the 3 following years, 22, 23 and 24.
33% also matches the universal global market share, which is probably not really a coincidence.
Then, in 2025, they suddenly drop down to 16%. Just looking at the chart, you can clearly see that the increase of Warner from 24 to 25 is the steepest rising in the last years. Only the pandemic decline of the indie labels marks a similarly big difference, but this can be clearly explained by COVID.
So, what is the reason for Warner's success in this year?
We think the reason for this is that Universal was holding back this year.
And why that?
Our theory is that maybe the reason for the absence of Universal this year might be the bad relationship between Universal Music Group and TikTok, who were official partner of the Eurovision Song Contest until last year. Universal and TikTok had a major quarrel in 2024. They settled that in court. But it was major. Universal for a time had withdrawn all their music from TikTok. And that the Eurovision dropped TikTok as a sponsor became public only in November 2024. And maybe that was just too late for Universal to hop back on, since many national selections already had their application deadlines passed by that time.
We are curious to see if Universal comes back next year in full swing with at least 10 artists, or if they will leave the Eurovision to the smaller players. What do you think? Do you have other ideas about what makes this year so different?
Could the change in the labels be a reason for the different feeling? Or maybe do you know something else about one of these entries? Because sometimes it can be quite hard to find out which major label is hiding behind a certain name that's officially given as a publisher. So maybe there are more songs belonging to one of the 3 major labels and we just missed it? We'd love to know all your thoughts, and in general, we are happy to get feedback. Please feel free to leave us comments. And of course, we would also be very happy if you decide to like, subscribe and hit that notification bell, because we plan to make more Eurovision videos very soon.
Goodbye.